Morning, I am Hunter Orrell. This is the Morning Mint, and it is a lovely snowy Tuesday, February the 13th. We've got an amazing show ahead of you today. Thank you all who joined in yesterday. Could not be happier with the turnout and the feedback from that show. And of course, yesterday was action packed. We're going to get into a bunch of different topics and go over what you need to know to navigate this market. Most notably, cryptocurrencies up across the board, and some very large NFT buys. But the core of the show today, and the biggest topic of the show today, being not fading what I think is the biggest play outside of just buying Bitcoin and Ethereum and Solana, of the entire market right now. And there's some people being very vocal about this, and most of the only thing you can really do right now is move ETH, but or do venture deals, but it should be on your radar, and you should not left curve this, or maybe you should left curve it, but don't mid curve it. And we'll talk more about that in a second. CPI numbers came in today, a little bit higher than expected, and what that's going to mean going forward. It's interesting, guys. These numbers, you would think that they would affect the market a little bit more than they have, and they really aren't. A little bit of a pullback today on the markets, and we're still moving strong. And we're going to talk a little bit more on some partnerships that we're seeing happen, and as well what the absolute most interesting big news in traditional finance is going to be, which is the Ethereum ETF, and why that is certainly coming, when it's possibly coming, how to trade that, and why we see this lagging of Ethereum possibly going away, and it's starting to perform a little bit stronger. Yeah, it's day 2. Good morning. I see we got Noah, Neilpin, and Philly in the chat. Also to our podcast listeners, thanks for joining in later in the day. Hopefully you're not too late to the fun. We also have a brand new overlay. Thank you, Dylan Orrell, my brother, for helping out with the overlay that we've been working on together. A little bit of changes, but yeah, good morning, GM. We've got an interesting show. Right now, markets across the board are staying strong. We did have ETF, or the CPI numbers, come in a little bit higher. We did see a little bit of a pullback, and notably, there's still a lot of green in the market. And I think months ago we would have seen this be more of a factor, but we really are in our own consolidation period right now of bull market, like internal period of bull market, where a lot of the educated people within crypto and NFTs and Web3 understand that there's a lot to come. Retail has not entered the conversation yet. They're not in the chat. And that truly means that we're early still. Now, I know the fear and greed index has been up, and there's different indexes from different services. Some are in greed, some are in absolute greed and super greed, and I think to an extent, sure, there's a lot of buying going on, and we could see a little bit of overbuying happening here, but I think long term, you still have the same outlook for your core currencies, which is that there's money flowing in. It's a core product. It's going to be offered in traditional retail, and so it's a good period. I know a lot of people are closing their shorts, and so if you did have a short open, just understand that a lot of the smart money has already closed, and they've already longed the dip, but we haven't seen like a large influx or anything off of that dip. So nothing too crazy there. NFT market, feeling the pain though. And we always see this kind of inverse correlation when we see Bitcoin and Ethereum go up and Solana go up. Floor prices within that native currency go down. So Pudgy Penguins dropping a little over 2 ETH on the floor, going down to 19 ETH. Zuki feeling a little bit of a pullback. Little Pudgies, which were, and also you got to understand relative performance here. Lil Pudgies were outperforming all of the majors, doing a 2x essentially in the same period. that others were only seeing a 30 to 50% increase from 1 ETH to 2 ETH. And obviously that is going to have a little bit stronger pullback, but we aren't seeing as much, which is interesting. Mutant Ape Yacht Club still at 4.2. Again, Yuga's kind of been making some missteps here, and we aren't seeing that same buying demand, and people aren't hyped. I do think with all the kind of shade I've thrown at Yuga, it is very clear that their only path forward to absolute domination within the market is in the gaming space and the other side. So other deeds, codas, and all of the other assets that fall under that umbrella you should probably be having a deep dive and look into, and then possibly getting some exposure there. Bored Ape Yacht Club, it's getting close to going under 20, which is kind of wild. 22.8 ETH floor on Blur. Again, still just under 3 ETH delta between Pudgy and Bored Ape Yacht Club. And then again, across every other collection, pretty flat. And we're seeing some pullbacks. As I mentioned yesterday, nice little call out here. I did mention Cool Cats was aligned and it was a lagger. And again, I can't take credit to all this, the stuff that I say on the show as unique thoughts, because it's pretty commonplace and it's pretty well communicated across X and Warpcaster. But Cool Cats has performed very well, up 16.5% almost, up to 1E4. I would say, unless they do something here, probably going to see consolidation back towards 0.8, which we were at yesterday. And I think that we're still kind of waiting for them to come out with more than just the animated series. So keep that on your radar. And let's make sure that, we're all keeping a track on where the blue chips and where the core collections from last cycle are doing. I still think, though, that, throwing 1 ETH at a Cool Cat versus throwing 1 ETH at a collection that's a little bit newer, has a little bit more attention, isn't having to deal with, old narratives and old FUD, could be a smarter play. So again, don't get lost in the cabal screaming, "Hey, buy my old bags," etc. Definitely keep an eye open to what else is out there. And then real quick, just looking at all marketplaces right now, volumes are down across the board on the NFT side. Just enough to make you think that, it's over. Like, I think while we are seeing, some of the trading chill out for a second, understand that in the market, when there's easy profit to be made trading, that's where the money's going to go. The second we see sideways movement within the cores, then that starts to go to alts. Then you see that, go off to NFTs. It's also, I made this comment yesterday. I should have thrown this tweet in the show, but somebody did say that we're going to see more gambling enter the mainstream, and more Americans and more of the globe are going to turn to gambling to make more money as, inflation continues to rise, cost of living goes up, inequality increases. Gambling is now this like, hey, I've got a 1 in 100 chance to make money and set myself apart and to make actual wealth. I'm going to take that chance. And that's the only differentiator. And it's a very dystopian take, but we also see that in bear markets. And it's the idea of you can't make as much profit in the bear market. 2X's and 3X's aren't really out there. You're not able to trade because we're flat. Not a lot of volume on the NFT side. Well, where do people turn? It's betting. They go to either traditional casino games, sports betting, wherever. But there are two, when you're betting, there's a 2X and you have a chance of getting a higher return. But yeah, market overview looking pretty good, pretty strong. And this is good. I'm feeling good. I hope everybody else is as well. Again, thank you to everybody who's tuning in. Love to see it in the chat. Yeah, let's hop into our first topics of the day. Let me pull this up. Let's get into, you might have noticed it or you might not have noticed it. Bitcoin did cross the 50K mark. If you weren't paying attention, you would not know. It was literally a non-event for 99% of the people in the space. I don't think I've seen really outside of crypto native um, reporting that anybody was really talking about it. My parents didn't call me. I didn't have, relatives calling me. Like, if it was really a significant event, my phone would be blowing up. And I'm sure everybody listening, watching is agreeing that it wasn't really like this euphoric moment. I think that also speaks to where we are. And other people are feeling this not only within the currencies market, but also within the NFT market, where it does feel like it's that early or that late 2020, that fall 2020, winter 2020 vibe of there's a lot happening internally in the core ecosystem of Web3 and crypto understands what's happening. We're all excited and there's a frenzy happening, but you step 1 foot outside the inner circle and it's crickets. There's nothing going on. So funny little meme here, just joking about how after the ETF, everybody's like, Bitcoin do something, and then all of a sudden it just woke up and went crazy. It's here it is. Here's the take. Nate Alex, market temp feels akin to fall 2020, sentiment shifting, new tech emerging, activity increasing. Interesting. He also launched a project right around that time. He's launching his next project. Expect an announcement there, probably before Friday. I'm expecting that. Yeah, no, good vibes, interesting vibes. Lot going on there. But also within that activity side, we're seeing even more on the side of buys. Now, this was an interesting one, seeing a mega coda, go for 72.5 ETH on X2, Y2. Also not a marketplace that we're seeing many times in headlines, so that's kind of interesting. But 72.5 ETH, this is a huge buy, massively off the floor. I think this is like 25x off the floor almost. Codas, like I mentioned earlier, one of those projects where when Yuga needs to actually pull out the big guns and they're going to make their move, these are going to be in the dead center of that narrative. And it's going to be probably the hardest whiplash asset within their offerings, in my opinion. Don't believe that other deeds are going to outperform Codas, but I do and I don't even think apes or mutants are going to outperform. It's hard to keep deriving all that value straight back to those assets after the token drop, etc. And they're going to have to provide value and actual utility and a use case for these assets like the Codas and the other deeds. So keep that in mind. Also seeing the rocks. I thought we were going to be done with this story the first time it came up, which was, Sotheby's was talking about rocks. We're going to have a rock auction. And that just reminding people that this existed set a buying frenzy off, which we saw 239 ETH, 250 ETH, 275 ETH, 290, 74, 79 ETH, 280 ETH, and then 200, the 200 and the 180 ETH sales were the ones that kind of set all this off. So, we're seeing $500,000 to $600,000 sales, some creeping a little bit higher. Then this absolute Chad, Vincent Van Doe, EtherRock 19 purchased for 279 ETH, $739,000. I have nothing against the rocks. Nothing. I love them. I think that they are a meme and a core staple in NFT history. This is an indicator. This is an indicator of where we are in the market. We're early. I think smart money and large buyers, the thesis for this and why you're seeing people with this large bankroll making these plays that to you seem absolutely insane, are that these assets will, with a cap supply of 100 and where they stand within the meme and the historic narrative and the absurdity narrative of Web3, that these assets in a bull market, if we see everything absolutely take off and rip, these will be trading far over the 279 ETH purchase price of this asset. So, whether that's 350 or 400 or 500, I couldn't tell you. But I do think that these have a space because of their narrative and because of just the absurdity of them. So keep an eye on that. Don't knee-jerk react and say stuff that doesn't make sense or looks insane, is idiotic. There's a thesis behind most of these buys, especially when you see smart money doing them. Also chatting on relation to Bitcoin and ETH. ETFs are a major narrative that we're seeing in the market. Lots of inflow yesterday. We love to see this. Absolutely love to see this. Inflows yesterday net at just under 600 million Bitcoin purchases. That being led, again, Fidelity, BlackRock, 21 shares also waking up a little bit and reminding people that they exist and purchasing $141 million. If we look, remember, Grayscale has been outflowing for the most part. They're the only real outflow right now. They have lowered their entire market share down to 22.6 billion, and we are continuing to see BlackRock, Fidelity increase, just crossing the $8 billion mark. They're at 1/3 combined of what we're seeing Grayscale. So they're really, really, really loading up on their bags. And then 21 shares has just crossed the $1 billion mark, and they are also increasing their purchasing. We're at a point now, we really need to understand what's happening here, which is they are buying more Bitcoin, more and more Bitcoin, and there's only so much out there. There's a limited supply, and there is not as much selling happening, and we're entering the halving, and we are also pretty close to, as far as like federal policy goes, what I think is a great setup for a risk on market. There are a lot of factors here that are again proving that Bitcoin as an investment is the highest risk to reward ratio asset out there. So this is great. We love to see this. We love to see the everybody focusing and figuring out different ways to differentiate their product from others, and obviously on the fee side, and how to integrate it into all their offerings. And I don't know. I think some of these guys down here, like Wisdom Tree and Franklin Templeton, Valkyrie, Van Eck, I think that you're going to see them probably move in serious volume at some point. Now, whether that they are kind of just saying, hey, we're going to let everybody else do their Bitcoin side, and then we're going to attack the ETH side a little bit harder, that's to be seen. But, getting more news is everybody's filing for their ETH ETF. And so the bull case here becomes, all right, what did Bitcoin do? Awesome. What is ETH projected to do off of that same comp analysis? There is a very strong thesis also that the only two ETFs you will see in the year of 2024 are Bitcoin and ETH. And this is also narrated by the SEC, I think it was the SEC, basically saying that they're only considering these two right now. They're not considering alt currencies. And so that, again, where does that value go? And when a lot of these people that are putting money into these ETFs and getting exposure to cryptocurrencies for the first time, and they're like, hey, I'm just going to do it once, are they going to keep coming back? No, they're going to say, all right, these are the two core offerings that I have, and invest there. I also think that you could make a very strong case around all the other stuff that's happening with ETH for why it's going to stop lagging, around L2s, around their network security, around the compatibility. I could go, and that's a whole segment on its own, but ETH really does have a bull case here as well alongside Bitcoin. I just think that it is less of a known thing to the general boomer public. So you could have a little bit more risk there, but it's not, in my opinion, as significant as some do make it out to be. Let's move on to the core of our show. Blast. This is it. This is the main thing I want to talk about, which is stop fading and stop mid curving this and stop right curving this. This is a left curve play. And I say that with like the most the utmost respect for Blast and people building on Blast. I am so bullish on it. But the more I talk to general funds, the more I talk to retail, the more I talk to the older side and the less veteran side of Web3, the more I hear people saying, well, there's nothing being built there. Well, the bridge isn't done. There's not even a two-way bridge. Well, I didn't like the launch. Like there's a lot of like copium happening around like why people aren't bridging and why they don't think that it's a good protocol. I genuinely think that you have to understand something. We're in an attention economy. I'm going to say this every single show. So, one day you're going to come on the show, I'm literally going to be wearing a sweatshirt that just says attention economy. That's what we're in. Blast understands this. Pac-Man understands this. The builders understand this. The money that's backing Blast understands this. Attention economy. They are doing this right. If you are aware, Blast is doing something called the Big Bang competition. They've had over 3,000 teams register for this competition, and the deadline is February 16th, this Friday. It is super nutty, the number of teams that have signed up for this in the last 24 hours, 48 hours. Most notably, it's insane the diversity of teams that have signed up with this. And I've been doing my research and talking to dozens of teams, and I've also been talking to dozens of investors and understanding where their minds are at and the best way to approach this. Now, if you're looking to invest in, Blast deal flow, one, talk to me because it's out there and I have access to it. If you're building on Blast, literally just send up smoke signals, like write a post-it note down and throw it out your window. I will find it. Get in touch with me, do whatever it takes. I would love to chat with you. But the most interesting part here is we're seeing everything from SocialFi to GambleFi to DEXs to NFT marketplaces to NFT liquidity to loans to all the way down to messaging to weird applications around there was one for like storage that I saw. It just there's weird, crazy things being done on Blast and anything and everything. And I think in each of those categories, the core categories, social, gamble, DEX, marketplace, in each of those, I think there's going to be one core leader. And I think of all of those core leaders, 1 to 2 maybe, of all those core leaders, you'll end up with like 10 really, really, really strong projects. And of those 10, 3, 4 are going to be absolute blowout, the biggest plays, the biggest sinkholes possible. And we'll talk about, the early leaders where you should be putting attention. But I think that Blast has been really faded on this idea of, well, there's so much deposited already. There's higher EV plays out there. I truly think that with all of that being put onto the bridge and being bridged over into that wallet, they are sitting there every day thinking, okay, not only how do we keep this, but how do we keep this money deposited into the ecosystem? Because they don't want, hey, bridge is open, you can pull out your money. They don't want all that money to go poof, thanks for the points, goodbye. They want a reason for it to stay there. And the projects want a reason for it to stay there, and they want your money, and they want you to be interacting with their product. And so they're thinking of ways. The most notable that we're seeing so far has been basically ways of like, hey, you've bridged so much, that's an allocation, and you can use that money that's how much you can invest within our product, or how much you can this is how much buying power or how much loan you're originally approved for. And they're doing the opposite of what we've seen Yuga do, which is they're basically giving more features or more allocation to the largest investors in Blast. The other side that we're seeing is more people figuring out ways to do things around the social side, which is, tweeting out, but also keeping, continuing to engage with that platform. And over a monthly period, you get that airdrop. Again, keeping you, they want to just like grab you by the neck and just say, stay, don't go anywhere. So yeah, Blast is going to be interesting. And I think, again, the incentives are going to be there, and you're going to see hundreds of projects doing airdrops and trying to get you to, it's going to become an attention economy. So I've increased my allocation into Blast on my public wallet. I've increased it on private wallet. Like I've put more ETH in than I thought I would originally do. And I think that's probably going to continue to go up. I think I'll probably double that number over the next week or two, which is a little scary. Key dates around this competition, though, because of the venture side and the angel market. February 16th is Friday, is the last day to submit. There's going to be live judging event. You should be tuned into this. It's going to be probably live streamed on the Blast L2 Twitter page. That live judging event is going to be fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. I'm not sure if they're going to do like how that's going to work, but they'll probably do different categories. There's probably 10 categories, and then they'll do the top 3. So you get 35. It's going to be a couple hour event. So definitely don't miss that. Should be on your calendar. Go mark it, write on a post-it note. February 20th, live judging event. And then on the 21st, Big Bang winners will be announced. Now, there's categories, and you can get into this, and obviously you can just search and go to blastpublic. There's a Notion page if you go to that site. We've seen a couple projects pop up and where she'd be looking, who should be talking to. Blaster Swap is one of the dexes that we've noted. They do have a way to go and sign up and get your pre-tokens or pre-points, and basically you get a referral link. You can refer that out. If you haven't, go use somebody's. I'm not going to show mine. It's in the video. It's down below, whatever. But this is right here. An interesting dex play. The other decks we're seeing is Thruster. It's got some big backers. They've done a round already. But this is an early one that you can get into. Just claim some tokens. The other one that we're seeing right now is Risk. It's Risk on blast.xyz. There's also a link for that in the video, and I'll throw it out there. Again, don't have to use mine. Go use your friends. Whatever. It's totally fine. But you can also, I think all these you can sign up without codes as well. You can just click and go in. But Risk is a GambleFi product that we're seeing, and they're probably one of the leaders so far from like a mindshare perspective. If I were you, I would be basically just searching Blast and like DeFi or DEX. Blast, Blast Gamble, Blast Betting, Blast Loans, Blast, like whatever it is, search that. And basically you are going to see a couple dozen companies possibly tweeting about, hey, like we're launching Gamble Tech on Blast. Come, use our test net, do that. Easy airdrops, easy. Remember, they are every single one of these platforms. The reason you're seeing all these people flock in and absolutely go crazy for this competition is that they just see that there's over $1 billion committed, and that they understand that the platform is going to do whatever it takes and incentivize side to keep people there, and they want you to interact with their product. And other L2s are going to have to deal with this because, again, attention economy, but there is an incentive here. There is yield. There is, airdrop. There are tokens, whatever it might be, however they end up phrasing this, there's going to be a way for you to win. And this is more of how we're entering the PvE side of the cycle instead of the PvP, which for those who don't understand, the PvP is in that bear where you're trading directly against, Joe in California. And so you're basically trying to make Joe your exit liquidity. In this sense, you're basically trying to use all these different environments, all these different companies as yield, and not, I guess, gamifying them is not probably the most savvy way to say this, but you are looking for the best opportunities out there to get return on your time and money. And also you're trying to find which products and protocol or, and systems are going to be the winners, because you want to be early to that. There's alpha there. So keep that on your mind. That's kind of the core thing I really wanted to talk about on this show, which is Blast. There's tons of different companies being built there. And I would assume that even though we saw those 3,000 apply for the competition, there's probably equally another 3,000 out there that have not applied, we don't know about, or building stealth and don't even want to be on the radar. and are probably backed by some serious VC money. And that's probably why they're trying to just come at this and absolutely just stealth launch and take over. So keep that on your radar. If you agree, don't agree, let me know. Like I said, I'm always interested in everybody's takes around these topics. Going on to our next topic, and an interesting one, Ledger and Coinbase partnering up. Another key theme that I like to talk about is friction. This is just another friction reduction for not only retail, but also traditional people within the space. But we're seeing the easier onboarding of money, the easier offboarding of money, the easier, swapping, loans, whatever it might be. The mechanics of moving money continue to become easier, and those blockades and the limitations eroding. Ledger obviously is one of the largest physical wallets out there. Coinbase, one of the largest onboarding ramps out there, and also one of the best products out there from a onboarding standpoint and fiat to cryptocurrency standpoint. So essentially now with this Ledger, you can grab, a Ledger that's just sitting on your desk. You open up the panel, the software, and right inside that, instead of having to, and the way this used to work is you can only just send in, you couldn't buy within it. Now you can literally just write in, boom, $1,000, bought it. I think this is huge. Small news, but to me, it's bigger. It's the largest, hardware wallet, the oldest hardware wallet, integrating on-ramping into it. Pretty big. Bullish case for for crypto. So, definitely notable. I think one of the other big things that we should note here, that is a little bit bigger news than that, which is CPI. CPI currently right now, coming in a little bit hotter than expected. And so this is that initial pullback that we saw in the markets this morning where everybody freaked out for a second. I'm not as freaked out. I think that there's a lot of people that are going to use this as a buy the dip opportunity. Obviously, the show's coming out a little bit later in the day, and so that means that you at this point, and I can pull this up somewhere, and we can pull this chart up real quick. We'll just look at Ethereum real quick. We're at 26.27. So we had this big pullback. People are buying the dip. We're chopping around. I don't think that we're going to see that like huge flood back under 2,500 off of this news that we would have seen previously. And so in the risk market that we're in the global economy and all these issues that we're seeing, and in the geopolitical, world, all this stuff, this barely registered. So use this to your advantage. If you're longing, keep buying dips, dollar cost averaging. I'm not telling you to go and put a 20x leverage in. But when we do see these events that aren't as significant as we go into a risk market, use them as opportunities. So be aware of that. I think we have the next big thing this week that should be on your radar. I talked about this yesterday, is Coinbase earnings on Thursday. Coinbase, this is the biggest earnings for them. And again, it's going to be I think $30, $20, maybe $40 swing in either direction, depending on what the reports are. So keep that on your radar. And then, closing topics for today's show, 555. And I want to emphasize something. This show is not possible without the people that are in 555. And it's a private community, which is just friends and people have grown together to share information. I don't like calling it an alpha group because that's really not what it is. It's really just a bunch of very smart people, very well-connected people, absolute grinders who are all just working together. So I just do want to give them a shout out for all the support. And obviously a community that's worth joining. A lot of the stuff that you see here today not only comes from my mind, but comes from discussion with these people, and also the community flagging all of the amazing things that are happening within the ecosystem and their takes. And that's how you become smarter. I don't think it's a purely, sit in front of your computer and read Twitter all day. type thing. It requires being surrounded by the smart people who are invested in the industry that they're working in. And I'm glad that we've found that and been able to incorporate that. So just wanted to give a shout out and a thank you to you guys. And it's always amazing to see you in the chat and joining the shows. I want to leave you with this thought real quick. WARPCAST. As I've said, Blast is a pretty EV positive play from just bridging some money, and it's locked up. But I think the other interesting one that has continued to play out from a mechanic standpoint and like a social standpoint or a cultural standpoint is we're seeing more and more people post these photos of, hey, WARPCAST is 4 to 6 hours of my day that I'm using it on my phone. The interesting part also now becoming that tipping and airdrops and mints and whatever it might be, Web3 is becoming more and more integrated into it. And because it's worked into the platform, it makes sense. And so now we're at the point where, as we see more people and more time being spent on WARPCAST, if we see an onboarding of external industry people, so venture capital people start coming in, your real estate people start coming in, traditional finance start coming in, and then you start getting to like the meme culture and whatnot. As they continue to build this product, Web3 becomes exponentially more used on that platform. And so airdrops, etc., onboarding becomes even more EV positive for these companies who, again, are being driven by where the attention is. And so we see all this attention and all these users outside of crypto starting to use WARPCAST, which is kind of the big, like, is it going to happen moment right now. Then I do think by engaging on the platform, by, buying warps, by trading channels, by engaging, replying, etc., by using the product, you could set yourself up for a very nice couple of freebies. And who doesn't love a freebie? So this is, again, top of mind, something that I'm thinking about, something that I'm seeing. It's a trend. And while Friend Tech as a social fi platform, I think got it wrong from not a manipulation standpoint. Obviously, okay, maybe yes, from a manipulation standpoint of people buying keys and this buyback side, from a case of is there demand in a volume side for people to be interacting in a social setting with Web3? They've proven that, and I think we're going to see that in serious size happen with WARPCAST. And if the public come in, it's even better. It's interesting. I'm continually impressed by what we're seeing in the markets. It's exciting times. We've got a big couple of days ahead. The market today is going to be a little interesting as we see the CPI number kind of flow in. We'll see what equities do. Remember, don't be patient. Be patient and be smart. Make sure you're allocating. Make sure you're talking to your friends, and make sure at the end of the day you are truly doing what you want to do and not getting too risky with it. I just want to thank everybody again for joining in on the Morning Mint. We do this every day, 11 a.m. Eastern time for about 30 minutes to 40 minutes. That concludes today's show. Hope everybody's having a great one. We'll catch you tomorrow.